Thank you so much. It is so good to be here. I was, as for those of you whom I know well, I was superintendent in New Orleans for a while before having this job. And actually, quite literally, and I don't know if he's here today, I don't think he is, but the first person, I know Brian's here, the first person who actually reached out to me when I was going to make the move to Baton Rouge was Cordell Heyman. And so I know that there are people in your world who have already, in that time, reached out to me and welcomed me, and I thank you so much, both personally and on behalf of our school system, for your doing that. I want to open with just one message that I hope summarizes everything that the governor did, everything that we tried to do. Oh, nice. I can channel my inner Phil Donahue here. Okay. All right. Can y'all hear me? Okay, great. One thing that I think characterizes a lot of what the governor and the legislature tried to accomplish over the last couple of months, and I'm going to touch on a lot of it here. There's a lot about standards and about evaluation and merit-based culture in our schools, and I will talk about that. But one idea that I've learned in my time in public education that's critical is that we have for too long been impervious to outside influence. And I'm not talking about political influence. I mean the influence of ideas. And we've been impervious to partnership. We've been impervious to the idea that people on the outside of K-12 education could actually help train our children. In the meantime, industry, the military, and others have developed actually the best means of training and preparing the workforce that exists. And it has always seemed to me counterintuitive as a high school teacher that the best training that our young adults receive is actually not always through, in fact, rarely through K-12 specifically. And yet we are so, frankly, just awful at inviting industry in, at inviting, I would say, the military in, at inviting anyone other than ourselves in who is really, really good at preparing people for life beyond high school. And that's to say, I think the governor took strides to open up K-12 education, to say it's actually not about whether you're certified to do this or part of K-12 technically or not. It's about, can you prepare our children for a better life beyond? And a lot of what I will be talking about today is about how this new framework for operating in Louisiana invites in innovation, invites in entrepreneurs, invites in industry, invites in higher education, invites in other branches of government to help us prepare our youth for the life beyond high school. And that life beyond is a productive life broadly defined. It's a productive life in the workforce. It's a productive life in college. It doesn't compromise on the idea that every child should be able to be someone who can communicate, someone who can think critically, someone who will be responsible morally and otherwise. But that path can be a path to career, or it can be a path to college. The child should have a choice. We should prepare the child for choice, but we shouldn't be closed off to the idea that others should be able to train our high school and our grade school children, not just our K-12 schools. And I'll talk a little bit about what I think that means today. So I'm here more than any other reason to ask for your help. And I know that, government people stand in front of industry very often and say, I need your help. I need a donation for this, or I need, you to sponsor this in the legislature. I mean literally, and I'm going to talk about why in a second. Literally, I need your man hours. I need your resources. We need your help. Because I don't think we can train our children, prepare our children to be productive members of a Louisiana workforce without Louisiana industry. We really, really need your help, and I think the governor has opened up vehicles to doing it in a more concrete way than ever before. I'm going to walk through about a 10 or 15-minute presentation, then I hope to just engage in a discussion if that works for you all. I've been, as you may know, I've been meeting with teachers every night for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be doing it every night for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Tonight I'll be in St. Charles, if any of y'all are in St. Charles. But one of the things that has rung true is the fact that teachers, I do think, feel besieged. And I think sometimes communities feel besieged. The political dialogue, I don't think over the last couple of months is anyone that any one of us would have wished for. I think there were reasons for it, good and bad, but I don't think it's one we would have wished for. And part of the reason is that one thing that is not mentioned enough is that public education in Louisiana, we talk about how it needs to increase, and there's every reason why it should. But what we haven't focused on probably enough is that there has been progress. If you look back 13 or 14 years ago, and this is much to the credit of governors past, of state superintendents, of our teachers, of our communities, of our parents, the results were a lot different from what they are today 14 or 15 years ago. 10%, or just barely above, of our special need kids were on grade level. Today, we were talking about how 44% of our schools are Ds and Fs. 13 years ago, 80% of our schools would have been Ds and Fs. We were near the bottom in terms of per pupil expenditure, near the bottom in terms of average teacher salary. And those things have changed. And I do think we need to thank our teachers for that. We need to thank our schools and their superintendents for that. We have 150,000 kids today who are on grade level who 13 years ago would not have been on grade level. Over the last 10 years, the graduation rate in this state has increased by 10 percentage points, which means literally tens of thousands of kids have diplomas now who wouldn't have otherwise. Our teacher salaries are rising. Our communities in our state are putting more money into public education. Border states have been cutting their education formula. This state has held steady on that and hasn't cut its K-12 formula. So we have, I think, a lot to be proud of in terms of what we've achieved. And I think to double down on that, you know, often the thought is, well, maybe the kids just got rich. Maybe, you know, somehow everybody, you know, their lifestyle came up. But that's not really where Louisiana has seen the gains. The gains have been because, as this chart shows, among our students who have special education needs, among our African American kids, among low-income children. And to demonstrate that, our lowest performing district, New Orleans, our lowest performing district before Katrina, our lowest performing district after Katrina, actually is now our fastest improving district. Highest in violent crime, highest in homelessness, but now our fastest improving district. So the change has happened because the state believed that the hardest to serve kids could achieve. Now, I want to frame the challenge by saying this. I don't think at the end of the day you're going to prepare a workforce banked on the idea that every single child graduates with a 4-year political science major from LSU. On the other hand, the reality of job creation, and you know this much better than I do, is not that we should have an economy staffed by high school dropouts or people exclusively who have high school diplomas. That there is something in between the 4-year degree to which our system is by and large oriented and the high school diploma, which doesn't really leave our workforce with much preparation in and of itself, that we are missing. And let me exemplify it by saying this. If 100 kids today enter our high school as freshmen, 71 of them will graduate within 4 years. 49 of them will go on to some post-secondary education, whether it's a technical college, whether it's a community college, or whether it's a 4-year college. And 19 of them will end up with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. And to put that in even more stark terms, we are the 50th state in the nation in terms of the percentage of our youth growing up in a household where there is an adult who has an at least associate's degree. And that's not for a second to say that an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree in and of itself is the thing on which we should predicate our job creation or our economy. But it is to say that we do need to educate our workforce beyond just a high school diploma. We do need a technical workforce. We do need a workforce that can think, that can calculate, that can communicate in ways that just a high school diploma is not getting. And so what I want to advance today is the idea that you can accept that there has been progress in this state and at the same time know that that cycle needs to be changed. That today's kids will grow up to be parents and that we cannot continue to have a cycle of parents where we are the lowest in educational attainment and expect to get better outcomes. And I talked to educators about how if we believed in the past that the children that people counted out can learn at high levels, we can prepare them for the workforce, then we have to believe that we can better that number as well. So I'm going to move on through some of the stuff that we typically talk to educators about and just talk to you then about what is our plan. And there are some elements of it that you probably agree with, and there might be some elements of it you don't agree with, and if you do, I'd like to hear about it. Because in the end of the day, you are the ones who inherit the students that we produce and make graduates into your workforce, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I am going to pause and talk at some length about career preparation. We have 8 goals that we've proposed to the state in terms of what it is that we want to achieve. And I'm going to start from the back end, and I'm going to go up. We've proposed that we judge the health of our education system in the following realms. At the finish, we want to produce students who have enrolled in college or have attained an industry-based certificate. We know that these kids are taking a concrete next step, and we've got to get those industry-based certificate numbers up, and we've got to get our higher ed numbers up. Because right now, we've got 40% of our kids, even 40% of our graduates, for whom we don't have a concrete next step immediately following high school. Our high school graduation rate, our next goal, has increased, but it's still one of the lowest in the nation, at 71%. The number of students who are taking advanced coursework in math, in science, and actually passing those courses, as demonstrated by AP tests, is the lowest in the nation, at 5.8%. The national average is 18.1. We know we can change that through getting a culture of rigor in math, science, and other subjects in our high schools. We have made a shift, and I know it's not without controversy, to test all children who don't have severe learning needs on the ACT. But I think something that's gone unnoticed is that it's not an ACT test that is just an 11th grade test. It's an 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade test. The tests college and career readiness starting in 8th grade, so that actually we can give our 9th grade teachers, our high schools, when kids come into high school, the ability to make good decisions about planning for the future. Just to be frank, right now our 8th grade is making essentially two choices. This child is either college track or this child is career diploma track. They don't have nuanced information with which to make that decision. They don't have a test that's really indicating to them whether that child is ready for college and career. And we're proposing to institute a test series that does that, ACT, measuring ourselves against a national norm, grades 8 through 11. And so we want percentages of our kids to be ready for college as measured in 11th grade, measured for college as ready in 9th grade. And then we backward map all the way to pre-kindergarten, where right now, we might wonder why we have a 71% graduation rate. Well, it starts in pre-kindergarten. We only have 52% of our pre-kindergartens or 52% of our kids coming out of pre-kindergarten actually ready for kindergarten. That means recognizing all 26 letters. That means being able to count to 20. Only 52% of our entering kindergartners can do those things. And then we wonder why we have a 71% graduation rate. So the governor's plan is first and foremost to provide additional choices to parents. And I want to talk a little bit about this, as this is really the center of what I need to ask your help on. Some of that was embedded in the legislation that in very obvious ways. One, pre-kindergarten, the governor's legislation, now signed into law, will move every pre-kindergarten program in the state under one governance structure. So there can be one set of academic standards administered for all 4-year-old education. So we can fund programs that work and not fund programs that don't work.